Okay, welcome everyone to the Apex Fitness Bristol Round Table, Coaches Round Table today. Thanks for joining us. We've decided to put a few videos together as a coaching team to help you guys during this lockdown period. The most recent one we did was about motivation and how to stay motivated through this time. And today we want to talk about and touch upon nutrition and how important it is to create some really good habits over the next few weeks. My name is Paul, and I'll be kind of chairing this video with the help of Andy, Maddie, and Milo. They will be adding the expert opinions as we go through each point. Some of the information that we've put into this podcast today is kind of come from our touch points with our clients, so most of the stuff will be relevant to most people. So hopefully you guys will be able to get some good information out of it and some information that you can apply to your nutritional habits from today, basically. So yeah, as I said, thanks for joining us, and we can help you. Over to some of the coaches, just a quick introduction and just some, if you can, guys, just some points that you've been thinking about for your nutrition over the last few weeks. Andy, do you want to kick off?
Sure. Thanks, Paul. I think for me, one of the biggest things, and I'm sure, Maddie and Milo will expand on this a lot more, is just kind of getting organized. So the one big change that I've been able to make because of the lockdown was having more time. And so I pick a time, usually it's on a Friday afternoon, right before we're going to go do a big shop, and we write a list. We plan out our meals for the next week, and we have them on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday written down, and then we know exactly what we need to buy. So for us, that's been really effective, is having more time to really plan and do proper meal prep and know exactly what we're going to eat every day. So yeah, I found that really helpful so far. That's my biggest thing, I think.
Cool, thanks, Andy. Matt?
Main thing for me, I found it with the lockdown that I can actually be consistent with things. So as well as actually not having the access to all the bad food, because I'm terrible for just seeing something and just buying it because I'm hungry there and then. So it's really helped me actually be consistent with the quality of food I'm eating and sort of like my habits around it. It's like my sleep's massively better as well, which it never has been because I normally work late nights. So main thing for me is just I actually have a chance to be consistent.
Yeah, brilliant. Cool. Milo?
Yeah, I think just, touching a little bit more on what Maddie said there and about sleep. For me, it's something that I've kind of really focused on. Now that I'm not working late, I can make sure sleep is my priority. And, the reason why I think sleep is my, priority is because I know how much better I feel the next day if I have that structure and rhythm. We can all cope on one bad night's sleep, but once we have two of those in a row, that kind of knocks on, and that starts to lead us to making some potentially worse choices than we would have in life.
Okay, yeah, cheers for that. So going back on to your points there, what comes out to me is those are all points that, what lockdown or not, we should all be focusing on anyway. So what I find interesting during this time is people now have the time to actually implement those things, especially from the planning and consistency point of view. It's the things that we as coaches, when we talk to our clients, are the stumbling blocks, are the things that are going to stop progress. So for you guys, it's good to hear that in your lives you're able to implement these things and focus on these things, and then obviously give that information to other people, especially around that sleep element. So for this talk, there's a few things we want to kind of touch upon, and you guys have kind of touched upon them already. So we're going to have a look at kind of that importance of sleep and rhythm, and the way that nutrition kind of plays in with that, and how sleep and nutrition are kind of mutually inclusive or exclusive, but they both affect each other. And like you said, Milo, the choices you make off the back of lack of sleep. We're going to talk about hydration, limiting processed foods, the importance of veggies and protein, which we've kind of been banging on about recently anyway. And then that kind of icing on the cake, the exercise side. So let's start with sleep and rhythm then. you guys, Maya, do you want to chime in on that and kind of expand on what you're just talking about?
Yeah, certainly. I think what actually is sleep. Sleep is our body's chance to basically recover from the day before. And say if we're waking up in the night, or we're not getting that 7 to 9 hours sleep, that restorative process in the body isn't happening. And what that and when we have a bad night's sleep, it makes us more hungry in the morning. We also have the potential to store more fat. And so these are, as a result of not sleeping and not recovering enough, we lead to these different behaviors, which kind of lowers our mental acuity in that sense, and leads us to make these choices. But yeah, so as that's why having a structure to our sleep and trying to keep it, make it a priority, makes the tomorrow very easy.
So what you're kind of saying is maybe pick out a time of day that you're always going to go to bed, that you're always going to wake up, if you can, to make that easier. Is that right?
Yeah, I think from some of the people I've been speaking to, and again initially myself, for the first few days of lockdown, we kind of went, we don't have to wake up and go to work straight away. We kind of used it as an excuse to then go to bed a couple of hours later.
It's like holiday mode.
Yeah. And then, as a result, I was feeling a little bit off for the days to come, just because my sleep was then 11 o'clock till 8 a.m. And that had that knock-on effect with how I worked, how I felt, and with some of the food choices that I made, because generally I plan all my food and eat it all from home. And I was kind of not making the food that I would normally do, until I actually said to myself, right, Milo, I've got no excuse now. Let's make sleep my priority. And then since then, I've been stretching around 9 o'clock, starting reading about 9:30 in the evening. And then by about 10 o'clock, I'm asleep. And it's just that's just a few things I did to kind of knock on to the front of sleep to make it happen.
Awesome. Andy, anything on?
I think Milo did a great job of really encapsulating a lot of what's important. I think, I know for me, we do know, for example, having really disrupted sleep, it has all the effects that Milo talked about. And even from a hormonal standpoint, you have elevated cortisol levels and things like that. And that will, like Milo said, will drive you to store fat more readily, if your cortisol levels are high and you're not, having that restorative sleep. So I think from a sleep and rhythm standpoint, for optimizing your hormones to allow you to kind of not put on body fat and also just feel normal and better. And I know for me, if my sleep gets out of whack, it really goes into something we have been talking about, I think, for the last couple of weeks as well, as having a schedule. For me, I've just made sure. So my wife is an NHS worker, so she's still going to work, but I just set my clock based on her. So even if I have nothing exactly to do, quote unquote, a job to go to in the morning, I'm in bed by 11 o'clock. I'm up at 7 or just before 7 every morning. And I get up with her and I make sure that I do that as my routine. It keeps me in a healthy sleeping pattern, but then it sets my day properly. The last thing you want to do is start pushing that lie-in a couple hours. And then all of a sudden you realize it's 11 a.m. before you've eaten anything, and then you've missed like a whole meal right there. And it just throws your whole day off and your whole schedule is off. So I think having that schedule, sleeping, will then bleed into that schedule for your day, and it will make you more productive. It'll allow you to eat properly throughout the day. And I think, that will have a big effect on people. Sure.
Yeah. For guys and girls that are working from home or actually doing some work from home, that's key, isn't it? Is to set that day up as if you are going to work, and sleep that sleep beforehand. It makes it so much more important, so much more productive, basically. Maz, you talked about earlier on about working into the evenings. Do you want to talk a bit more about that and how that's kind of changed?
Yeah, well, normally, because I didn't normally start work until sort of 4 or 5 p.m, so my day would essentially shift. So then I'd be going to bed at like midnight, 1 a.m, and getting up never consistently. It'd be probably around 9 a.m, but most of the time half the time is later. So actually this has given me the chance to be consistent with my sleep and wake routine, which I'll then hopefully take with me when we're out of lockdown, and just have those habits before I go to bed, so I know I'm ready for bed and I'm going to be getting into bed, screens are going to be off, and then I can still get up at 8 a.m. and still have that section of the day that I wouldn't normally have. But I found for me, I feel a lot better than I did before lockdown, just because my sleep is consistent. And it's just had a massive effect with actually like my food choices as well, because I feel better. So I'm not going for the sugary food because I need something quick and easy. And then I also don't have access. So we're not buying it. So then I don't have it in the house and I'm not going to then be tempted to eat it.
Yeah, I mean, it's ironic that this lockdown has kind of allowed people to actually implement the things they should have done in the first place. And you kind of mentioned before we came on about, you know, your body composition and how you actually feel better, you feel more alert, more productive, but also physically feel better as well.
Yeah.
And then that ties into that whole routine and those nutritional choices. I think next thing we'll kind of talk about is that hydration and how important that is. We all know, you know, we should all be aware that sleep and that rhythm is really important, but hydration as well. Miley, do you want to talk to us about that?
Yeah, just briefly. I think you know, as humans, we are about 60% water. So I think that shows just how important it is in itself. I think, you know, there's a few other things, you know, when we are a little bit dehydrated, you know, we have lower energy, you know, we are not as mentally acute. And it also, you know, you need sufficient water in your body for your digestive system to work effectively. And if you are not properly hydrated, then you might not be digesting your food as properly. And again, if you've got lower energy, you're not going to probably be feeling, you know, as acute to make the right decisions with your food, or not necessarily the right decisions, but those decisions which are a little bit better for you. So when you have that choice between grabbing that sugary snack from the cupboard or making that meal, which might take 5 minutes, if you're a little bit dehydrated, it's going to lead you to making that choice where you go for the cupboard. So I think, you know, I think that just shows in that, just summarized there, how important hydration is to us.
Yeah, and I know from my personal experience, like I've drank so much tea over the last 3 or 4 weeks and coffee and stuff, but you know, it's almost boredom drinking, just to have a hot drink in my hand. So that's one of the things that I'll try that has been evident to me that I've got to really try and improve on, especially when the weather gets better as well, or it has been quite warm recently, and staying hydrated is key for that. I think what we'll do is we'll talk about kind of food choices very quickly, about processed foods, veggies and protein together, I think, because we kind of talked before we came on about not having those food choices readily available. Andy, do you want to talk to us about that and how this lockdown has kind of affected people's food choices or not affected them?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I suppose the lockdown itself, you know, I'm certain, I know it did for me, you know, it certainly, you know, it will affect a little bit your food choices, especially in the early days of the lockdown, you know, going to the shops and there was literally no meat that was available, you know, you couldn't find anything. Now I think things have calmed down and I think we're a little bit more back to normal in terms of having access to the foods that we want to get. And I think, you know, I touched on it earlier, being organized and doing that meal prep. So just writing down, even if it's just your dinners, you know, what you're going to have for dinner every day of the week. And then you think, okay, well, what ingredients do I need for that dinner? I think that makes it a lot better. When you go into the shop, then you're not just kind of whimsically grabbing things off the shelf that you just kind of feel like in that moment. You've got a plan, and you know, you plan for healthy meals and you end up, you know, buying what you need. And actually financially it's been better too. It's cheaper. Instead of just going and buying a bunch of stuff, you know, you organize, you just buy what you need and that's it. And we're finding that we're getting to the end of our week, we've eaten everything in the fridge and we're ready to go do another shop, and there's not a lot of waste. But I think just planning it out in that way is helpful, and it will stop you hopefully from then buying foods that are not good to have in the house. You know, if you're planned and you know what you need to buy for dinner, maybe you won't buy those biscuits, you won't buy those crisps, because that's not in your meal plan. That's not what you got written down to buy. So I think not buying them and having them in the house is a big one. I know we've touched on it a lot, but plan your meals. That's what I did. Plan your meals. Plan your meals. We've got the time. Well, you do have the time now. I think that was a really helpful thing.
Yeah, I think again, planning those meals is something that we should have been doing anyway before lockdown.
100%.
It takes all the guesswork out of it all, but it also allows us to not make those bad choices, especially with those processed foods, or going out and having that frappa mochaccino or whatever you have with a little cake. Those opportunities aren't there anymore, so let's really hone in on that. And obviously, with possible lack of movement during the day now, we have to be more aware of how much we're actually eating, from a calorie in standpoint to some degree. But I think it's a great opportunity to learn to cook, to eat real food, and to do that on a regular basis, and maybe to eat as a family. Sit down and eat together is another good kind of social thing that we can implement. Mads, talk to us a little bit about veggies and protein. How have you kind of factored more of that into your diet?
I think I was fairly good with having protein with every meal, but I wasn't the best with having veggies at every meal. Normally, I never would have vegetables for breakfast, just because it wasn't almost socially accepted thing to have for breakfast. It's not one of the typical breakfast foods, so I never ever had it. So I've been trying to add just at least one portion of vegetables with my breakfast and slowly bring that in, so I become more comfortable with eating something different on a morning. I think as well, because I used to get up later, just eating on a morning is a different thing for me. So actually implementing that has made me fuller throughout the day, and actually having good quality food and not reaching for those easy things in the shop, just sort of like a sandwich or something. So I haven't got that opportunity. So actually just the quality of food as well, and adding at least one portion of vegetables with each meal, I think has made a huge difference to just how I feel day to day as well.
Awesome. Just to finish off on that, obviously we've talked about the importance of veggies and the protein with every meal, and that just allows our bodies to ironically get what they need throughout the day, but then allows us also to not overeat, and all those hormonal impacts that we have with the composition of meals that we're having. So it allows us to focus in on the composition of those meals, and hopefully not be too hungry throughout the day, or want to reach for extra things that are just in the cupboard over there. Let's move on lastly to exercise. That's the kind of cherry on the cake for me. If all the previous things are in place, you're really standing on a great foundation, and that exercise should be that cherry on the cake. So Milo, do you want to talk to us about exercise and some of the things you've been seeing, or some of the issues that you've come across when it comes to people's exercise?
Yeah, I think it's when we talk about exercise, it doesn't always have to be what you think of in the gym. It's just daily movement, for blood flow. So that could mean just getting outside, at a regular time every day for 30, 45 minutes, something like that. It doesn't have to be much. Some of the things I've, from some of my clients, initially the sessions that we do at the gym that maybe take an hour, what we've found is that works a lot better with just daily activity of maybe just 20 minutes. And I think when you look at, this as an opportunity, one of my clients I've been speaking to this morning, in the last 3 weeks, he's lost 3 kilos of weight. And the reasons why is that he has control of things now. He doesn't have the opportunities to drink. He controls his food, and he's now walking an hour a day and exercising 20 minutes 3 times a week. because, you know, he's in control and he can make this happen. And I think, you know, that shows that once you get those lifestyle factors and you make those nutrition choices and you then add that little bit of movement to, you know, it's all in our control, and this is our opportunity to do something.
Yeah, it's a great point. I think lots of people have had, you know, have found it difficult to be without a gym. But your example there really highlights the fact that all of those BLGs, all those lifestyle factors are far more important than that hour and a half you spend in the gym. And the time you do now spend exercising, whether it's out in your garden or for your hour-long walk, is far more productive and far more beneficial. I think when it comes to exercise, you don't have to beat yourself into the ground with this kind of stuff. You just got, like you said, you just got to move blood. And if all the other stuff is tied up, you know, that's when all the good stuff happens. And, you know, like we talked about before and kind of joked about, we've seen so many people now dusting off their bikes and starting to run again. And now they're running every day, and now they're starting to get injured because they're starting to bang themselves into the ground. You don't need to do that with exercise. And that's why, you know, you guys as coaches, I know, are not giving your clients things that are really going to cause them issues later on. The whole point of all the information that we're putting out is that at the end of this lockdown, everyone is coming out fitter and healthier, not having to have rehab for dodgy knees or elbow tendonitis from doing too many kettlebell swings or too many pull-ups. But yeah, that's a great example there of, you know, just doing what is right and doing what feels right. Anybody else, just last minute or so on that exercise, anything, you know, Andy and Mads?
Yeah, I'll just touch on maybe just a broader point, actually, and both Paul and Milo have touched on it a couple of times. And I think it might be a bit of an uncomfortable truth, but the fact is that what this lockdown is showing us is that we ultimately have control here, right? So you decide what you put in your mouth. You decide what you cook for dinner, okay? And so you know, we have to understand that we ultimately have control over these BLGs, over these basic lifestyle guidelines. We can make a decision and put these in place. And now is the best time possible to do it. Yes, we do have a little bit more time, but if you make that decision, you take control of that stuff and take ownership of it and put these things in. These are things that once they are habits in 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, when this lockdown ends, these are habits that are going to stick with you for the rest of your time and make everything else easier. So I think the precursor to all of these BLGs is understand first, you have control and you can decide to put these things in and then take those things in and put them in and run with them. It will make a world of difference for you.
Awesome. Thanks, Andy. I think there's nothing really much else to add to that. I think that's a great way to finish off today. Thanks, guys, for being on the call. Thanks for all your great information. And thanks to everyone who's going to watch or will be watching this call, this video. We hope that you've got some decent information out of it. And if you have got any questions, don't hesitate to ask us. And we'll catch you on the next one. Thanks a lot. Ciao.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.